Hey everybody, welcome to Landscape Rescue. My name's Stuart Moore, and today we're going to do a shopping video.
Here we go again.
The task is to look for amazing deals.
Watch.
Why else would I be here?
Conditions are it's super windy.
It's wind. Of course it is.
But it's a nice day, it's nice and sunny, the wind isn't too cold. Standards are...
No, that's not a thing.
There is no standard here.
Let's not pay too much this year for plants. So that's what we're going to look at. What is and is not a pretty good deal based on my experience in the nursery industry. So here we go.
I'm out of here. I am out of here. I quit.
Okay, I'm hopping back and forth between wind gusts.
It's just wind. It's wind.
So I saw these little Palace purple coral bells for $4.48. This is not going to be a bad investment. Just make sure you mulch it heavy. That's kind of the key with these, I think, is they start to try to crawl out of the ground. So that's not a bad deal. $4.50 for a coral bell. Invest in some extra jazz to put in the soil, 2-year fertilizer tablets, Dr. Earthgrow. And a little guy like this, you'd only need one, so you're looking at what, like 15 cents worth of investment for 2 years worth of fertilizing? Seems like a pretty good deal to me. You can get stuff that's small like this. Now, this Lowe's is packed. There is people everywhere, and it's like 9:30 in the morning. So what you need to realize is that once the amateurs are all done with their spring impulse shopping,
boy, if that isn't the pot calling the kettle black,
and buying all this stuff at full price, we're prepping our beds. We're getting ready to attack.
What are you smiling at, huh?
So I found this little 6-pack of English ivy for $12. So let me make you a deal. You give me $5 and I will hit you in the head with a hammer, and that will give you the same amount of headache that this thing is going to cause you.
Hit you in the head, man. You got serious problem.
It's an English ivy. Do not put this on your house.
Hell, there's no point in beating a dead horse to death.
Halcyon Hosta. It's an oldie but a goodie. This is a really good hosta to contrast to variegated hostas. You know, like this one here is cool as a cucumber.
You'll be cool as a cucumber.
See this guy? Cool as a cucumber. And so you start looking at the different textures that hostas provide. You can do an entire bed with nothing but hostas, and I'm sure you would be happy with yourself. For $5.50, it looks tiny. So I think if I had a mutant power, it would be growing hostas.
The worst X-Man ever, with incredibly crappy powers.
I am really good at growing hostas, or I say 2-year fertilizer tablets, beneficial fungus, beneficial bacteria are really good. A thick layer of mulch, some drip irrigation, all of that
Do I poop on it too?
is really good at growing hostas. That's my secret for hostas. And plant them in the shade, for God's sake. Stop planting hostas in full sun. There's a lot cooler stuff you can plant in full sun than a hosta. Not to mention the fact, into July, beginning of August, these things are gonna fry.
I don't want to be known as the guy who set you on fire.
2x3, so lots of blue color. I mean, you think of how wide 3 feet actually is. If I'm 6 foot tall, that's half the length of my body.
objection, this is not a math test, Your Honor.
It's a nice size hosta, doesn't get too tall. Plant it up against the house, right in between 2 windows, and then use some other hostas to kind of play off of this color. And I think you'd really enjoy it. That's a Halcyon hosta in a quart size container for $5.50. This is the hosta that I referenced earlier. It's cool as a cucumber, and again with these names, but it has a longer leaf, very pointed on the end.
Bill, you came all the way to tell me the obvious.
And yellow and green variegation. This particular one, cool as a cucumber, $10.98 for just a little tiny 1 gallon, 2.5 quarts from Monrovia. So a patent variety, but it's pretty. And so you use that variegation, and a lot of times if you can tie in that darker green color, get a little bit better deal on some of the less flashy hostas, but you would want to tie that darker green color in so that variegation would pop a little bit more. Cool. Hostas are pretty much fire and forget, and I don't feel guilty about spending good money on good hostas. They pay you back, and you will never buy another one of these. Like give it 3 years, separate it, give it 3 years, separate it, then you're giving them away. So literally you buy a hosta for $10, in 6 years you're gonna have more of these than you can
shake a stick at.
than you can do anything with. You end up giving them away.
It is illegal to make it or sell it without a government license.
Hostas are a great pay it forward plan, especially if you're good at growing stuff. You end up looking like a superhero when you show up with an entire trunk load full of hostas to help your friend at their new house. So anyway, cool as a cucumber, $10.98. Now, so you've got a hosta for $10.98, but then you come back here and you grab one of these designer jean hostas.
What was that?
Sir, we have a report of shots fired.
There's a meteorite that hit the ground near here.
For $8.50, right? So $8.50. So that cool as a cucumber is probably going to get about 3x4. This guy is going to get 8x12. So hostas, you can literally stair step down 5 different times. I mean, there's so many different hostas. Here's an opportunity to basically scout out what you feel like might be on clearance, maybe towards the end of May. This is the Sunset Blue Hydrangea. So this is Hydrangea macrophylla. So like big leaf is basically what that's saying. These are pretty, okay? They're pretty. Definitely going to be something that people are going to want to impulse buy because of this beautiful blue flower. But I need you to do a couple things when you're planting these European hydrangeas. Morning sun, shielded from the afternoon, and you got to feed them. That means you're going to top dress with compost. If that means you're going to use 2-year fertilizer tablets. If that means you're going to apply Osmocote throughout the year. Just remember, these get big, and if they're not getting enough sun, they're not getting enough food, they're not going to bloom well for you. So just picture how much energy it takes to make a bloom that's half the size of my head. And there's 4 or 5 of them on this plant. A lot of energy. If you want this kind of production out of your hydrangea, you have to give it enough sun so it can photosynthesize simple sugar and it can produce mass. This is carbon, right? So it has to pull carbon out of the air. It needs energy to do that. In order to have all that energy, it needs to photosynthesize sunlight into sugar. That's how plants work, right? And it also needs a lot of sugar to pay its employees. It's beneficial fungus and beneficial bacteria that work for this plant. And then the more mass it has, the more water it's going to need. I do like European hydrangeas, but you have to understand these boys get big. Yeah, this is 4x4 is what they're saying. So just picture a 6-foot person and then take 2 feet away from him. That's how big this thing's gonna get, tall and wide.
You know, to pull off this irascible genius routine, one actually has to be a genius, Alan.
Neat hosta, a good opportunity to build your repertoire, build your palette of hostas, if you will. So this is the Blue Angel, okay, and they've got it for $8.50. This thing gets 3x4 if you give it enough water and food. Like, it will produce. And when it comes to hostas, don't be afraid to feed them.
Feed me, Seymour, feed me!
You could probably, if you didn't want to do the Agroform tabs, those 21-gram Agroform tabs, you could probably just put some inexpensive, like 14, 14, 14, 13, 13, 13, something like that, like something slow release around these every 3 months, and you would be astounded how big they get their first year. Definitely get the Dr. Earthgrow. That's cheap, and if you're buying this hosta at a Lowe's, they're going to have Dr. Earthgrow all-purpose fertilizer. It's a good way to get stuff started. But remember when I was talking about stair-stepping all the way down, you can really stair-step hostas, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different varieties of hostas, and really create a multifaceted texture contrast, a multifaceted color contrast. Like, hostas are a very good way to do that. Now, I also like mixed shade beds. So if we're gonna do bleeding hearts, toad lilies, Jacob's ladder, you know, some of the stuff that we've seen on the previous video, you can really have a lot of fun doing that with hostas. I also think there's something to be said about having a hosta bed with a bird bath, maybe a little bench somewhere around in that area. We all have, well, most people have big trees. It's hard to grow grass under these big trees. Well, it's a perfect opportunity to just mulch the living snot out of it.
What did you just say?
You heard me.
He had snot in his nose? But he's famous.
And then periodically, once a week, come by, grab a new hosta that you've never seen before and plant it in your flower bed, and then just watch the fireworks. Like, it gets to the point where you skip Starbucks one time.
This time you have gone too far.
Now you're getting a hosta that will literally last you the rest of your life. Maybe not this particular hosta, but it's babies, and as you're propagating things, you'll never have to buy another one. That's the beauty of hostas. Here's a Shadowland. Let me get a good one that's got crinkly leaves. Look at that. So just that little nuance of adding something that's a little paler blue or a little lighter green, but it has crinkly leaves. I mean, think about what you're adding to the landscape with this, and mix them up. And you can really start having a lot of fun when you have like 7 of these, because you separated it 2 years later and you fed it real good and you were attentive, and now you have 7 that are this size. And then you can start mixing those around in the garden, and just make sure you label stuff. I find that it's hard to know 4 years down the road, when you've separated something for its second time, how big it gets. And I have sometimes mixed them, put them in the wrong place, and they start crowding out other stuff. But that's a good one. That Shadowland Diamond Lake by Proven Winners, and it's $10.98. Now here's something kind of cute. This is a Buttercup Hosta, and it only gets 10 inches tall, so this would be almost your last layer. So what's your point of egress? I'm walking down a sidewalk. This would be the hosta that would be closest to the sidewalk. And how wide do these get? 14 inches wide. So you only need to be about 7 inches away from the sidewalk. That's not a whole lot. So do that, and look at how cool these are. They just look like little hands. Just
I think you think I'm a boring guy.
pretty neat for a hosta. So that is the Buttercup's hosta, and it's $5.50. All right, here's your opportunity to start killing it. So I'm down here at the clearance rack, and I found these Scarlet Dianthus. So this is kind of that fernier textured Dianthus. It doesn't have those big giant blooms. This is kind of like a fire witch or a fire star Dianthus. It's just done blooming. It's just done blooming. It will probably bloom 6 or 7, 10 more times if you just kind of deadhead it a little bit. You can get this for $4. Look at all of those that are in here. There's even some white phlox in here with like a pink throat, and you can get those for $4 too. $24 you could get 6 of these. That's not even the price of 3-gallon plants here right now. So you could get 6 1-gallon, and then exercise some horticultural husbandry and just raise them up. Wow. And the cool thing about this Dianthus is it's just bigger and bigger and bigger every year. It's such a beautiful ground cover when it blooms in the spring. And then what I like to do is I just like to buzz them with a sickle bar or something to that effect. I mean, you could even get away with weed eating one of these, as long as you're just not too crazy and just kind of run that over the tops. Some of these are getting ready to pop. So I think what we'll do is
It may be glorious, but it's going to fall hard.
Maybe I'll just get one flat.
Got no impulse control, no sense of proportion.
You know he's broke? He is broke and working for you for free.
$4, there's 8, 16, 24. So I'm in it for $24. Yeah, that's fair. I've got some room to play with. Hey, look, Euonymus.
I think I'm gonna throw up. Me too.
On discount because no one ever buys it. I'm definitely not buying it for $12. Normally $25. $25 for Emerald Gate Euonymus. What are we doing? All right, check this out. Remember last week we were laughing at the 5-gallon for Cynthia that was $70. I'm laughing because you guys bust my chops about how I say for Cynthia. About it being $70 in a 5-gallon. Here's some Lynwood Gold. This, I would just consider this common for Cynthia. It gets 10 to 12 feet tall and wide. So, you know, unless you're gonna prune it and be really good about trimming it after it blooms, don't do this to yourself. But if you've got plenty of room to just kind of let it go and just trim it once a year, after it blooms, of course you trim it once a year, just to keep it nice and tidy, it's a good investment, especially at $12 on the clearance rack.
What was that sound?
Car crash?
Killer sharks, nuclear submarines, an alien invasion.
Just wait until they're done blooming. Once stuff's done blooming, Lowe's is gonna pitch it. This place is so busy. Down here in Ozark, Missouri, the Dianthus game is strong at Lowe's. Sunflower Finesse Dianthus. Look at how pretty those are. So $10.98 for a 1-gallon perennial is still a really good deal. I know this is straight retail, but there's so many different varieties of Dianthus here today, and it's very difficult to not build a Dianthus dedicated area with all the different varieties of Dianthus. So come and check them out. I think, geez Louise, full sun, a full sun perennial. You just want to make sure that you do a little deadheading, but look at all the buds on this thing. Jeez Louise, it's ready to go. Beautiful. The Finesse Dianthus. Okay, it is so windy and so busy. I mean, there's got to be 100 people in that garden center right now. And there was some other stuff that I thought was kind of cool that I might want to talk about, but let's face it, there's people everywhere. I have somehow suffered another neck injury.
My neck, my back, my neck, my back, my neck, my back.
So I apologize if I'm like super stiff and not as animated as I normally am. I appreciate you guys coming with me on the shopping video. My name's Stuart Moore of Landscape Rescue. Thank you very much for letting me into your home to talk about plants.
It's wind, man. Blows all over the place.